Hi, I'm CW5 Melanie Harris, Headquarters AMC G3 Senior Supply Advisor. And I'll be reading to you today, If I Ran the Zoo by Dr. Seuss. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Okay, it's a pretty good zoo, said the young Gerald McGrew. And the fellow who runs it seems proud of it too. So here we go. But if I ran the zoo, said young Gerald McGrew, I'd make a few changes. That's just what I do. The lions and tigers and that kind of stuff they have up here now are not quite good enough. You see the things like these in just any old zoo. They awfully old-fashioned. I want something new. So I'd open each cage. I unlock every pen. Let the animals go and start over again. And somehow or other, I think I could find some beasts of a much more unusual kind. A four-footed lion's not much of a beast. The one in my zoo will have 10 feet at least. 5 legs on the left and 5 more on the right. Then people will stare and they'll say, "What a sight!" Oh boy, this zookeeper, new keeper, Gerald's quite a king. That's the gold darnest lion I've ever seen. What about you? My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people talk. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people gawk at the strangest odd creatures that I ever did walk. I'll get for my zoo a new sort of a hen whose roost in another hen's top knot, and then another one roosts in the top knot of his, and another in his, and another in his, and so forth and upward and onward. Gee whiz. Are you all enjoying this book? Because I am. So here we go. But that's just a start. I'll do better than that. They'll see me next day in my zookeeper's hat, coming into my zoo with an elephant cat. They'll be so surprised, they'll all swallow their gum. They'll ask, when they see my strange animals come, where do you suppose he gets things like that from? His animals all have such odd faces. I'll bet he must hunt them in rather odd places. Wow. And that's what I'll do, said young Gerald McGrew. If you want to catch beasts you don't see every day, you have to go places quite out of the way. You have to go places no one can get to. You have to get cold and you have to get wet too. Up past the North Pole where the frozen winds squeal, I'll go out hunt in my Skigo mobile and bring back a family of what do you know? And that's how my new zoo, McGrew, will grow. I'll hunt in mountains of Zumba Matant with helpers who wear their eyes with a slant and capture a fine fluffy bird called Bustard, who only eats custard with sauce made of mustard. And also a very fine beast called Flustered, wow, who only eats mustard with sauce made of custard. I'll catch them in the caves and I'll catch them in the brooks. I'll catch them in the crannies and I'll catch them in the nooks that you don't read about in the geography books. I'll catch them in the countries no one can spell, like the country Modify Potter Fabel. In a country like that, if a hunter is clever, he'll hunt up the beast you never ever saw. I'll load up 5 boats with a family of jokes whose feet are like cows but wear squirrel skin coats. I'll sit down like dogs but have voices like goats, expecting they can't sing the very high notes. So here we go. We're almost done. Are you enjoying yourself? I am too. I am really enjoying myself. And then I'll go down to the wilds of Nantucket and capture a family of lunks in a bucket. Then people will say, now I like that boy heaps. His new zoo, McGrew Zoo, is growing by leaps. He captures them wild, he captures them meek, he captures them slim, and he captures them sleek. What do you suppose he will capture next week? And what will you capture next week? You have to share that with us. I'll capture one tiny, I'll capture one cute. I'll capture a deer that no hunter would shoot. A deer that's so nice, he will sleep in your bed. If it weren't for those horns that he has on his head. Wow. Okay. After speaking of horns, and speaking of horns that are just a bit queer, I'll bring back a very old family of deer. A father, a mother, 2 sisters, and a brother whose horns are connected from one to the other, whose horns are so mixed they can't tell them apart, can't tell them where they end, and can't tell where they start. Each deer's mighty puzzle, he's never yet found if his horns are hers or the other way around. I'll capture them fat and I'll capture them scrawny. I'll capture them a scraggle foot mullah gawani. Have you ever heard of that? I haven't. A high-stepping animal, fast as the wind from the blistering sounds of the desert of Zen. This beast is the beast that braves the chieftain's ride. Can you see this? Wow. When they want to go fast to find some place to hide, a mulligan Gadawani is fine for my zoo. Please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that word. Can you help me too? And so is the chieftain, and I'll bring one back too. In the far western part of the southeast North Dakota lives a very fine animal called a iota. I'll capture one who is even much finer in the northeastern west part of South Carolina. When the people see him, they will say, now by thunder, this new zoo, McGrew Zoo, is really a wonder. Most beasts are quite friendly, but still, in some lands, some beasts are too dangerous to catch with bare hands. For those that are ugly and vicious and mean, I'll build a bad animal catching machine. It's rather expensive to build such a kit, but with it, a hunter can never get bit. You'll never get bit in this one, right? You gotta stay safe. A zoo should have bugs. I'll capture the thrill, whose legs are snarled up in a terrible snarl. And then I'll go out and I'll capture some chugs, some king shooter, mean shooter, bean shooter bugs. I'll go to the African island of Yerka and bring back a tizzle top tufted mazurka, a kind of canary with quite a tall throat. His neck is so long if he swallows an oat for breakfast the first day of April, they say, it has to go down such a very long way. Can you see his neck? Isn't that long? Then it gets to his stomach on the 15th of May. Oh, I bet he was hungry waiting all that time. Okay. I'll beg a big bug who is very surprising, a feller who has a propeller for rising and zooming around, making cross-country hops from Texas to Boston with only 2 stops. Now, that sort of thing for a bug is just tops. And when I've caught him, and the next thing you know, I'll go and I'll capture a wild tic-tac-toe. With the X's that wins and with the zeros that lose, he'll look mighty good in this zoo of McGrew. I'll bring back a gusset, a gherkin, and a gasket, and also a gooch from the wilds of Nantasket. An 8-person princess will carry the basket, but with their names are, I don't know, so I just don't ask it. That is so funny. I hope you're enjoying this book. I am. Can you tell? I'm always excited though, just want to tell you. In a cave of cart room lives a beast called the Natch, and that no other hunters has been able to catch. He's hidden for years in his cave with a pout, and no one's been able to make him come out. But I'll coax him out with a wonderful meal that's cooked by my cooks in my cooker mobile. Then, they'll fix up a dish that is just to his taste. 3 chicken croquettes and a library of paste. Then sprinkle with peanut shucks pickled and spiced. Then baked at 600 degrees and then ice. Do I have any cooks out there, any chefs? We know how they do it. It's mighty hard cooking to cook up such feasts. But that's how the new zoo, McGrew Zoo, gets his beast. You see that cooking mobile? I know. Here we go. I'll go to the faraway mountains of Tibesque, near the river of Nobesk, and I'll bring back an obesk, a sort of kind of thing, a mom bobkiss, who only eats rhubarb and a corn on the cobkiss. Then people will flock to my zoo in Mobex. McGrew, they will say, does a wonderful jobex. He hunts with such vim and he hunts with such vigor. His new zoo, McGrew Zoo, gets bigger and bigger. Woo, here we go. We only got a few more pages. Here we go. And speaking of birds, there's a Russian Poluski, whose head ski is red ski and belly is blue ski. I'll get one of them for my Zooski McGrewski. Then the whole town will gasp. Why this boy never sleeps? No keeper before ever kept what he keeps. There's no telling what that young fellow will do. And then just to show them, I'll sail to Katru. I'll hunt in the jungles of Hypnohungus. I'll bring back a flock of wild Beepo-no-bungus. The Beepo-no-bungus from Hippo-no-hungus are better than those down in Dip-no-dungus and smarter than those out of Nepo-no-nungus. And that's why I'll catch him on hippo no hungus instead of those other nungus and dungus. And people will say when they see the bips bounding, this zookeeper, new keepers, simply astounding. Ooh, he travels so far that you think he would drop. When do you suppose this young fellow will stop? When do you think he will stop? I can't wait to hear your answer. Stop. Well, I said, I won't stop until I've captured the my deal, the world's biggest bird from the island of Guark. He who only eats pine trees and spits out the bark. And boy, when I get him back to my park, the whole world will say, young McGrews made his mark. He's built a zoo better than Noah's whole ark. These wonderful, marvelous beasts that he chooses have made him the greatest of all McGrewses. Wow. You see this? Wow. Woo! They all cheer. What this zoo must be worth. It's the gold darndest zoo on the face of the earth. Yes, that's what I do, said young Gerald McGrew. I make a few changes if I ran the zoo. And I hope you enjoyed this book today, If I Ran the Zoo by Dr. Seuss.